We will be three in the discussion, Radu, Dénes, and me. Please, Radu, if you want to, about the films, the filmmaking.
It's kind of difficult to compare the films one with another, and it's a kind of, how should I say, a kind of civilizational drive, a civilizational decision to see, to say this work of art is better, this is less good, this is less good, and so on. On the other hand, I can understand the necessity for that, because this is how the canons are made, and how we go on. I mean, if somebody wants to read a book, she or he will go to a bookshop, and we don't have the time to read all the books. So you go and say, okay, I want to read the book which won the Nobel Prize or the Booker Prize, or I want to see the film which won a prize in Cannes or in Berlin or an Oscar, and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, it's, I think, always important to be aware, and I'm more and more aware regarding the filmmaking, the films, that sometimes very, very good works remain outside of this system of awarding them, and sometimes those are the films which are very, very interesting. I can give only one example. One of the filmmakers that I admire the most in the last years are two Italians who made only archive films. They are called Yervan Giannichian and Angela Ricci Lucchi, and they are almost unknown by many in the filmmaking community, even in Italy, where they come from, because they were never very successful in the festivals. So yeah, and of course, it's always a question on how to look at the films, because one film can be good from a certain point of view, and can be bad from another point of view, or it can be good in a certain how should I say, aesthetical direction or political direction, or I don't know. So it's always a kind of, we discussed that, for instance, we had some Indian films, and of course, all of a sudden you feel the fact that you are judging them according to a European sensibility, or to a European aesthetical history, and maybe that film in its tradition is different, or has other qualities and other flows than what we spotted. And it's always like that, I think.
Dénes, what do you think?
About how we talk about films, or?
Yes, this question was which was mentioned by Radu.
Yeah, it's I think my solution for this, or my personal solution for this, is that what I say is only my subjective point of view, and I can only tell how I think about, or my point of view about this film. And I somehow I think this is important to state, that it's only my opinion, and this can maybe solve the situation of how you talk about a certain film. I mean, for example, about this film Birad, we just mentioned, I in my subjective point of view, I think I can kind of formulate what works and what doesn't work in that film, but and I feel free in telling this opinion, and I don't think it will offend, or it is something that is my I mean, it is definitely my cultural identity that I talk through, and somebody who listens to this have to accept me like this. So it's not like eternal judgment about something. But for example, about Birad, I think if we want go into concrete things, I think there is a if we say a criticism about this film, I think for me it's not mainly the acting, but it's mostly that it's maybe not enough brave in observing these people, or not enough I think that wants to go into a narrative where maybe there's no need for such a narrative. It would be, for me, a much more free or a much more deeper film if the camera could just observe these people. I think the most strongest moments are when they are cutting the stone, when they are doing the everyday physicality the day. And I think when the narrative comes in, that's where it slips away a bit. And in my point of view, but this is I already think as a filmmaker, and I understand the problematic of this, because how I would change this film. So I imagine how I would touch this film if I would be on the editing table. But yeah, Radu, you are holding your.
I felt like saying something. I didn't know how to, because you started mentioning aesthetical things, or which is true. But one thing that struck me, and it might be the selection procedure, but it's only that. I was in a project last year of making short films regarding censorship or something like that, and one of the very short film, 1 minute or 2 minutes, and 1 minute, I think, and one of the Hungarian films, which was made by Benedek Fligau, was making short clips from Hungarian films of that year or of the last years, like the successful film of the got the Oscar. I don't remember the name. The Saul,
Son of Saul,
Saul Fia, Saul Son, and so on. And it concluded at the end, none of the films speak about the problems of that Hungary has with the regime of Orban Viktor. And in a way, and not only the Hungarians, but because there were a lot of Hungarian films, and because film always has a critical or how should I say? Yes, a critical direction. And I felt that they were missing from many. For instance, one of the films that I love the most had this critical attitude regarding the Turkish racism against the black Turkish minority. And I'm asking why. Maybe it's because there are very young filmmakers, or because I think, and that because I'm also someone who makes films which can be considered political. And I want to be very clear, I don't mean this to speak here about propaganda films or simple-minded films and so on and so forth. But Hannah Arendt said at some point, to think critically it means to think offensive, is to be offensive. And I think most of the films that we saw, some of them were good, some of them were bad, some of them were well done, well made, some were less well made, but very few of them had a critical and an offensive attitude. And especially I'm thinking here of the Hungarian films, because Hungary is now, from a democratical point of view, or from abroad, and I'm sorry, I don't want to be offensive against the Hungarian people or the Hungarian artists, but I know that most of them had some problems regarding the political situation in the country, and this doesn't appear in the films, almost, I think, or not as much as you would expect that to appear. And it was that scandal at the Film Academy, where now is a military guy, right, in Budapest. And I don't know, I would expect the young people to feel the desire to be a little bit more offensive against the things that they do not consider acceptable in the society, if they consider them not to be acceptable. Maybe they like it, so it's fine.
If I may say,
the Russian films and so on.
I think we have got in Eastern Europe a special kind of problems. Every post-socialist country has got its own problematic, in Bulgaria, in Romania, in Hungary, in Czechia, in Russia. I think this kind of reconciliation process, the reconciliation between our historical experiences, it's very important. It is a work. The reconciliation is one part of to make or to help each other, to criticize myself and criticize the others, to help them, because to make the critic means that I help you and I am open to accept the critic which is given to me.
Absolutely.
So it's both sides. It's very important, and I think we we are in the learning process in the Middle European and post-socialist countries, how to go further with this kind of democratical way of thinking, to accept the critic and to offer my critique to the others. And in the same time, it's important to say that for example, in Hungary, we had democratical elections, and this was the result. And maybe if it is not acceptable for somebody, it is one point of view. But there were three democratical process, and these processes made this result. And I think these results in Bulgaria, in Russia, in Turkey, but in the same time in Brussels or in the USA, if you see if you have seen the American policy, the American way of the election, it is a lot of question on the election. And I think these processes.
Well, you try to play now the both ways, and I can understand, because you're in an administrative position, more or less.
No, I don't think so. So I'm a professor of the university, and I have got my professionality. I teach theory of film and this kind of things. So I think the critic belongs to me, but the critic is not only to give critique to the others, but to in the same time to accept and to wait for the critic to the others. And I'm open the critic, and I think it's important for everybody to give this kind of goodwill to the others, because we are on the same position, the human being and the dignity of a human being. It is equal if he lives in Africa or in Asia or in Europe.
No, of course not. But I was not criticizing, and I really want to be myself understood. I wouldn't allow myself to criticize the Hungarian people for their democratic choice, even if it's Mr. Viktor Orban or somebody else. I was just mentioning the fact that for many of my friends in Hungary, people who are in CEU University, which has almost closed down, or people who say, look, in the film and theater school, or in one of the film and theater school, they appoint an army man as the head of, in order to control it, and so on and so forth. So I think if these are problems that are important for young people, or maybe they are not important, I would expect to find them maybe in one film or in two films, or I don't know, and I didn't find them. That's all I'm saying. And maybe the Dénes can explain it better than me, but it's just, and sorry, it happens in Romania as well. And I think one of the reasons is because we are more or less encouraged to make films so-called, let's say, metaphysical, spiritual, existential, yes, moral, regarding moral issues, and so on and so forth, because these kind of films are already, if you want, acceptable for everyone. I made a short film at the beginning of this year, having criticizing a little bit, or I don't know, touching the subject of the racism of some intellectuals in Romania. And I was kind of attacked by some of them. And one of the attack was, but this is not a film. The film should be about, I don't know, beautiful things or metaphysical topics and so on. And I think, of course, there are great films like that, but films can be about everything. And it's like they would like to make films about religion or about spirituality, redemption, and so on. But it's like, leave the difficult topics of the society, leave them aside from art. And I think that's, of course, one point of view that I just disagree with it.
If I can touch this topic from a very different point of view, sorry that I interrupt you.
No, please.
I think that it's very interesting, for example, how Romanian cinema got really great in the 90s and the 2000s and now. And for example, also the same happened to the Danish cinema. And why did it happen that the Danish cinema became so good? And for example, why the Hungarian cinema was so good in the 70s, for example, and then became so boring. And I would say that there's a big crisis in Hungarian cinema today, or I believe in this, that I think there's no such a unity as, for example, in the Romanian cinema or in the Danish cinema, or you can, I don't know. And I think this is connected to, or I have like one conclusion for that. And I think you need great personalities for that. I think this is one of the, I mean, I think in Romania you have amazing filmmakers, and these filmmakers create a kind of attitude in filmmaking, or like generate, and like Lars Trier in Denmark took with himself a lot of amazing filmmakers. Yeah. And I think if it's a problem of Hungarian cinema or Hungarian filmmakers that, I'm sorry, there's a bell ringing, but I just opened, 1 second. Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's like avoiding some topics, and like in the Russian films, I think we had maybe 10 Russian short films here, and some of them were about human relationships, about religion, spiritual redemption of sorts. Not even one was regarding, I don't know, the problems that Russia has against Chechnya.
Yeah.
It's like some topics don't exist. And of course, I can understand Russia has a big censorship. Hungary, as far as I know, doesn't. Romania doesn't. You know, it's not something that I don't want to give it much more importance than it is. It's like the fact that I cannot not notice it, so to speak. I cannot see and pretend that I didn't see it. It's like. I'm not saying it's censorship or something like that. I'm saying it's it's like the filmmakers themselves. And of course, here we are speaking about very young filmmakers, most of them, and just at the beginning. And I see it in my student. I'm teaching in Babes-Bolyai University in Cluj, and also the script that I receive from the students are the same, more or less, about a family relation, about a love relation, about a spiritual thing. And it's nothing a little bit, how should I say, to have to touch a little bit more topics which are more urgent, so to speak. Mm-hmm. That's all. I would like to find a list to say, look, I'm gonna make a film not about my love relationship, not about because I live in Cluj, for instance, and in the Cluj there is a huge garbage hole, how you call it, garbage field with garbages from the city. Yeah. And there are hundreds of people living in that garbage. None of the students, although they live in Cluj, none of them makes a film about that. Nobody proposed a film about that. You see, so it's like I'm not saying they should. I'm not telling them what to do. It's just a kind of some topics just remain outside somehow.
If I may say something, maybe the type of the different films, maybe the documentary has got this opportunity to go a little bit closer to social problems, and I think the social problems, each country has got its own personality in this field, and I think it needs some kind of distance, and maybe the distance needs time, so to see what goes on, to be clear, to be objective. And this is the question: how can we judge the things when we are in and we are touched by the questions? And for me, is the question always that yes, I have got or I touched by a lot of things, but it is sometimes it makes me, or it makes us narrow-minded and not open to the others. And I think to think, and as a filmmaker has got this intellectual position as well. So it means that he has got, or she has she has to think about the things. And if I am thinking about the things, I have to make distance, and the distance help us to judge the things. And for example, in Hungary, or we can speak about different nations, but I don't want to talk about other nations. In Hungary, it is a living process. Living process with the changing, with the post-socialist experiences, the shock of the market, of the capitalism, of these kind of things. And if we don't have got the personal distance, I think it's sure that we will be not true, because it is very one side the decision, and I think we have to combine and compare the different way of thinking. And I think in the our festival is one part of this reconciliation, because the non-professional has got the right to go and to show the films. The professional has got the right, and the big authorities, or the big filmmakers, directors, you, Radu, and the others, has got the opportunity to work with the students. And hopefully, if somebody will see this recording, it helps them to go further. And everybody has got its own voice, and I think it's very important to hear each other, and it is one part of the things. And I think that the art is one part of this discussion, but it can be the science, it can be the ecumenical things, or the social questions, or the politics as well. And if I may say one more thing, that the politic, the politic has got these two meanings: the actual political way, maybe it is we are more and less poor with it, actual political, and the political processes. I think it's important. For example, the Middle European process. We are on the same boat, Bulgarian, Romanian, Czechian, Poland. And my question is, what can be offered? What can we offer to the eastern and the western side of Europe? Because it is a Middle European hashek, and we can say the good actors, writers, directors in the Middle European field, Jiří Menzel and these kind of things. So I'm in the Middle European position. What do you think about the Middle European position? Is it a missing field in Europe? Because sometimes I feel that we have to make decision to go to the eastern side of Europe, or to go to the western side of Europe. But the traditions, the experiences, the political way of thinking are different. And do we have some kind of Middle European identity or not? What do you think?
Regarding Hungary, I don't know. I think you can answer that about your identity.
Yeah. In my point of view, I think it is a Middle European question, and the question is the reconciliation. How can I can say the Habsburg-Hungarian monarchy.
Reconciliation between what and what? I'm not sure I understand you very well.
Reconciliation in the history, reconciliation in the political way, what we have done against the others, what we have done, the Hungarians, against the minorities in the last 200 years, for example. I think it's an important question. But it is the questions of the Hungarian side, and I think each country in the Middle European field has got its own problem or possibility to go further to the others, because we are on. I say it the second time that we are in the same boat, so we don't belong to the Russian or the Mongolian side of the global situation, or the Indian, and we don't. Belong 100% to the French or the English or the Dutch processes.
No, of course, but I think that this word, which is very important and very nice to be used, reconciliation, it's also shady and hazy and somehow, because of course, if we speak, for instance, historically about the problems between Romanians and Hungarians, of course there should be a reconciliation, and we are part of that reconciliation. It's no question about that. But if you speak about the reconciliation, let's not talk about the fascist past of Romania or of Hungary, in the case of Hungary, and let's forget that and let's make a reconciliation, then I will be against that idea. So I don't know. I cannot say, well, there should be a reconciliation all the time. Of course, there shouldn't be violence and so on and so forth. But reconciliation, it's. I don't know. I cannot use it like a general, like a general.
Yes, yes, I agree with you, and maybe I would like to add only one thing to and maybe we can leave the Middle European question, but I'm eager to hear Danish opinion about it. So that for example, the experience of the communism, the experience of the socialism, I think it is all special goodness or special work or opportunity to offer, because it is the second big dictatorship in Europe. You know, we can speak, and it's important to speak the Nazi and the fascist things, and at the same time, because we live in Middle Europe, it's very important to see what happened in the communist time and in the socialist time as well, because it belongs to me, and it belongs to you, and it belongs to our families. It was the last 40 years or 50 years or 60 years. And I think the changing process now, after the change, the last 30 years are influenced by the experiences of the socialism.
I think the difficulty of this, that this process is never ending, because I think Hungary's today situation cannot be, you cannot exclude the Turkish rule of 150 years. You cannot exclude what happened 1,000 years ago, because everything has an effect. And so it's the problematic of this, that it's never ending. So you can go back to the time of when Hungarian tribes were in the Ural Mountains and they fought against the Turks. And so I think it's a very interesting question, but it's if I understand right, Radu's problem is that Radu thinks about not reconciliation as a kind of compromise, but you understand that somehow you should say what you, or like put the problems to the or go to the core of the problem. But I don't know. I think everything is a bit. I cannot put a hand on.
Yes, maybe we got too far, and I think it's over our head, this problem. We started just by saying that there are no harsh and the films are too inoffensive in a way. The films we saw, most of them were too inoffensive, too mild, too comme il faut, and then we got maybe too much in that direction. And it's my fault, and I apologize.
I think it's a. I mean, the problem of, or I think many things that happened in Romania are connected. For example, that you had a revolution in the early 90s.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And many things that didn't happen in Hungary are because we didn't have a revolution. I just want to say that I think every society needs a shock to react to, or needs a really big shock. I think like the Second World War was a shock. That's why the European Union could come together, and it created many things that were important for the people of Europe after the Second World War till, I don't know, but it's getting less and less important now because people forget this shock. And I think it's we always need somehow a shock to have a reaction to. And I think in a way, you mentioned that Hungary has a problematic of, I mean, the last shock in Hungary was in '56, let's say, and we tried to react to that the most. And I think we have a less direct reaction to what has happened to us in the last 30, 40 years, because we don't have this kind of shock feeling or this, it's not so easy to react because there was no harsh.
Yeah.
So we are ready now with our official program. Thank you very much, Radu, your time and energy, which were given for us, and the attention as well. Dénes,
thank you for the invitation.
It is another opportunity. It was a very good opportunity for us, and I'm very thankful for you for this time, the attention, and the energy which were offered by us. Thank you very much.